So, I found this video called How Free Games Trick You into Spending Money, and while it is a bit of an older video than what I usually watch, over 1 year ago at this point, it sounds very interesting and still very relevant to this day, so let's give it a watch.
Why are most free-to-play games becoming pay-to-win?
Free-to-play games.
Free-to-play titles.
Free-to-play.
Pay to win.
Paying to win in a video game.
It's a pay-to-win model. Games didn't used to be this way. Back in the good old days,
The good old days,
loot
brother.
boxes, battle passes, or microtransactions. Something changed though, and game companies switched from play to win to pay to win.
The socially accepted way of behaving in your game should be paying.
But what's interesting,
What?
in the beginning, almost every video
Yo, who's that guy, dude? Who is that guy? Oh my god. They're actually making like seminars now on how to make the games more addicting and more expensive. That is insane.
was pay to win. Back in the 70s and early 80s, you were most likely to find gamers at an arcade surrounded by the aroma of heated circuitry and musty carpet. And for those that can't imagine the smell or weren't around for the arcade days,
Man, I remember when I was a kid, dude, it was so fun. It was so fun going to the arcade. I used to play Tekken a lot. So fun. I remember my mother wouldn't give me enough coins to like play multiple games, so I had to like bank on 1 or 2 games, but man, was it fun.
games were different back then. You had to pay to play, but you also had to keep paying if you weren't good. You see, back then,
Exactly.
most arcade games used the life system, like Space Invaders, Pac-Man, or Time Crisis. And these games had only one goal: keep customers paying. They wanted people to fail, because this was how arcades made back their money on cabinets that could cost up to 10 grand. This is also why you'd see 30 people craning their neck to watch one guy for hours. Dumping quarter after quarter every few minutes as a teenager was pricey. But with the rise of home gaming in the 80s
Exactly.
and 90s, arcades started dying off. Why spend all your lunch money trying to beat Ninja Turtles when you could buy the game once and play it as much as you want? So with the demise of arcades, the pay-to-win model went into hiding, at least.
Yeah, well, but the experience is unmatched. The experience of going to the arcade, being with so many other people, standing in line waiting for like the cool new game everyone's playing. Ah, man, that feeling is undefeated. It is different though.
What's crazy though is that the pay-to-win model would take almost 20 years to reappear, needing free-to-play games, piracy, and League of Legends for it to come back bigger and badder than ever.
There we go.
What's even more
And
crazy
people
is
say
that it
there's
all
no
started
hope.
with Doom.
Doom.
There had never been something
Classic.
quite like Doom. It was massive, and it changed video games forever. Doom had top-of-the-line 3D graphics, there was a PC multiplayer, it supported mods, but most importantly, the game was free-to-play. You have to understand, this was insane to do
Really?
back then. You didn't have free-to-play games. Remember, everything was physical. You purchased games on floppy disks or cartridges. Digital games weren't a thing. So free-to-play games weren't free to distribute, meaning id Software had to buy millions of floppy disks, then print Doom on millions of disks, then ship these disks around
Really?
the world, spending hundreds of thousands before ever making a dime.
That
why
is
would
so
they do this?
interesting.
Well, back then, developers were not the ones who made the most money off their games. Most of the money went to the publishers, and developers often got single-digit percentages in royalties. Id didn't want to go this route, so they decided to try the free-to-play model, known as shareware at the time.
It before he pays for it. That's the wonderful thing about shareware. He actually has it in his hands, and he sees if it's fit for his purpose, and if it isn't, he doesn't have to use it and doesn't have to pay for it.
The goal was to get
Really?
Doom in the hands of as many players as possible and hope they could upsell. A high-risk, high-reward strategy. For those confused on how shareware works, think of it like a phone game. Players only get access to the first few levels, with the rest of the game being restricted behind a paywall. The goal is to get people hooked, and if they want to play the rest of the game, they need to call and pay for a code that unlocks the rest. A little more convoluted than just adding your credit card, but the beauty of this model was that id would get 100% of the revenue instead of splitting it with the publisher. It worked.
That is so smart. That is actually so smart to do at the time where, you know, you didn't have all the technology we have today, which makes things way easier. That is crazy. That is crazy high risk, but the reward, I guess, was amazing, right? Wow. That is actually really clever.
Doom became a phenomenon. Companies were banning Doom from their networks because LAN games were clogging them up and slowing things down. I mean, the game had been installed on more computers worldwide than Microsoft's then new operating system, Windows 95. So because of the free-to-play model, it
That's
was able
crazy.
to upsell millions of copies, make tens of millions of dollars, and completely changed the world of video games. However, id isn't
Yep.
among the modern gaming industry's juggernauts. Why isn't the company still revolutionary, and why aren't people complaining about them like they do EA, Activision, and Ubisoft? There are a few reasons, such as the founding team breaking up or creating some disappointing sequels. However, the main reason is that id got comfortable. They were years ahead of their time with the free-to-play model, but they ignored the main reason for Doom's global success and released their following game, Doom 2, for $40 a piece. They completely forgot the power of the free-to-play model. And
at the time, $40, that was crazy price. Holy.
They stopped making free-to-play games. Slowly, the company fell apart. So with the failure of id, the free-to-play model amongst major studios would disappear in the West, at least until the rise of League of Legends 16 years later. But in the meantime, new innovators would eventually find success, and it's all thanks to piracy.
Why should I sail with any of you? 4 of you have tried to kill me in the past. 1 of you succeeded.
The game piracy was a huge problem in the 80s and 90s, especially in Asia. Unlike most Western countries and Japan, many Asian countries didn't have piracy laws. There was nothing enforcing that $250,000 warning every time they popped in a VHS. So at the time, 90% of all software in digital entertainment was pirated, which
I remember like this meme video of don't illegally download stuff. It's so hilarious.
means if you were a game developer and you had a million people playing your game in certain parts of Asia, it
Obviously, I wasn't like alive at the time, but I watched it like on YouTube, and it's super hilarious. You should watch it.
was likely that 900,000
Should clarify that. I don't want people thinking like I'm ultra old or anything like that.
didn't pay for it. Not a great way to make money. But there were many reasons for this. Cost of living differs greatly between countries. I mean, imagine paying $50 for a video game when your monthly salary is $200. So Western publishers did try
Yeah.
selling
Oh, there he
games
is
at
again.
prices that reflected the
Dude, I swear, Bobby pops up in every single video about like trash game industry on stuff like that, on the worst thing game industries are doing. There's always gonna be a segment of Bobby Cody comparing out of nowhere and just, you know, taking your wallet away.
local cost of living. But pirates would just travel to those countries, buy copies in bulk for huge discounts, and then sell these games in the States. And as I'm writing this, I remember going to a swap meet in 2005 and seeing Star Wars Battlefront, the first one, for like $20 right after it came out.
That is kind of funny.
Looking case, but I didn't care. The game was half the price that it was at GameStop. And I'm just realizing that it was probably purchased somewhere in Asia and shipped to that dinky swap meet for people like me to purchase. So we can see that the rampant piracy in Asia and the rise of the internet, up and coming Asian publishers really needed to innovate to succeed. And the first company to do it was Nexon.
MapleStory.
Nexon was a Korean company, one of the countries most affected by piracy, and they released the first digital free-to-play game called Quiz Quiz in 1999. This MMO set off a chain reaction, setting in motion a wave of Asian free-to-play games. Nexon had finally figured out how to monetize video games in Asia, and they didn't stop there. Nexon went on to create MapleStory, the first pay-to-win game in
What a game.
2003, which was also the first game to feature loot boxes, inspired by the real-life gachapon toy dispensers. But while many Asian studios
So, in case you don't know, I played MapleStory for, I think, like over 5 years. And I enjoy this game very deeply. It holds so much meaning to me still to this day. I think it's the best MMO out there, outside of World of Warcraft Classic. I think MapleStory is just the best MMO out there, of course, outside of WoW. But yeah. Oh, man. The loot boxes and the system and the cube system were horrendous pay to win. And that was so unfortunate. You don't really have to use them, but yeah, they're pay to win, like 100%. There's no doubt about that.
studios were innovating, the West continued as if nothing had changed, selling physical games in retail stores. Because if it's not broke, don't fix it. But it was broken. The West may not have had as much rampant piracy as Asia, but I remember the good old days of Pirate Bay and LimeWire. You'd have a
I've never used this site before. I don't know what he's talking about. Believe me.
dedicated computer for all your games, music, and viruses. So the
Never
US
have
still
I
had
ever.
piracy. Enough that the music industry was actually failing in the 2000s because of it. That
There it
said,
is.
piracy wasn't the only problem with the Western status quo. You see, the industry was growing, and companies wanted more people playing their games. But $50 price tags were keeping a lot of people out of the gaming market. So the other problem was price elasticity of demand.
What the hell is
Yeah.
even...
The barrier of entry was too high. The barrier of entry is, you know, is a benefactor, right? Of contributing to this people not playing the game. And free to play obviously offer free access and kind of letting people test the product before they just invest. And people are really cautious with their money, and they were really smart with their money at the time. I think these days it's not really the case. People are just spending all over the place, especially after COVID. But yeah, at the time, people were way more cautious with their money, so dropping $50 on something, on a game, wasn't really considered to be a wise purchase at the time.
Basically, it's a way to measure demand for a game. So if the price of a game is $50, you can see only half the people who want to play a game will buy it. If the price goes down, the player base will go up. So if you give your game away for free, you maximize your player base. But if you give your game away for free,
Diablo
you need to make money
Immortal.
elsewhere. And Western studios just couldn't wrap their mind around this concept yet. Executives would sweat anytime they ever heard free to play. And in business, we call this an innovator's dilemma. This is where League of Legends comes in. Asia was popping out free games left and right, and the companies making them were raking in the cash. Riot's founders, Brandon Beck and Mark Merrill, the creators of League of Legends, saw the free-to-play model working in Asia and came up with a genius plan. They decided to create an optimized version of Dota, which at the time was a Warcraft 3 custom game with a
was a free
massive
mod.
player base, me included.
Well, to be fair, the game itself wasn't free. You had to like have the Warcraft, but yeah, they built it off of a Dota. Oh wait, that's Gork. I just read. You see him? Like this guy up there. That's Gork. Great streamer. I watch him a lot.
They knew people loved the game, even though it was a janky experience. First, you had to purchase.
It was an
Warcraft 3,
insanely
then you had to
advanced
go
game
to
for the
custom
time.
Games and try to
I'm like a Dota 2 addict for 7 years, and when my PC broke down, I ended up purchasing Warcraft and playing Dota on my old PC. And dude, that's a crazy good game. It holds up. It literally holds up. It's such an insanely good game.
find a lobby featuring the Dota mod. Then when you finally found one, you could run to Taco Bell and back before the game even loaded. So Riot's founders knew they had a great gameplay loop they could optimize, but they also knew that League needed to be free to play. The founders took this idea of free to play Dota and with just a wireframe and a pitch, went to investors. Some were confused, thinking players would never spend money on cosmetic purchases. Others, however, were blown away. Mitch Lasky, one of the first investors in Riot, put it this way.
And they understood not only the free-to-play concept, but they understood how to bring an audience to the table to prime the pump of free-to-play.
So these investors didn't throw millions at Riot because the game looked good, but because Riot proved they knew how to make free-to-play work. Which is why League of Legends is one of the most pivotal games in history, for better or worse.
Yep.
So with League's success and the introduction of free-to-play in the West, pay-to-win was right around the corner.
Champions can fall, gods can bleed. Where were you when the West rose up to conquer champions?
One of my favorite experiences with pay-to-win happened a few years ago. I was visiting Yosemite when I overheard an elderly woman pleading with her husband to give her $3. I guess she had been struggling to beat a Candy Crush level and needed to buy some gold bars to help her win. He muttered something under his breath, but he handed her his credit card. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. This 70-year-old woman was being manipulated by Candy Crush, and based off the interaction with her husband, it wasn't the first time. In that moment, I realized that anybody could be swindled by pay-to-win mechanics. I mean, Candy Crush at its peak was pulling in $1 to $3 million a day with in-app purchases. That's almost $1 billion a year.
Because it's so clever. You know, they make you run out of something really quick, and they do this intentionally in like the best moment possible. And then it's like, oh bro, it's only $4. You want to continue gaming, and you're like, and everything is so fast right now, and your wallet is connected to your phone, so you literally just click the button and you instantly purchase something. It's so stupid and so easy and so accessible. Everyone can do it in like a millisecond. Yeah, that's genius. Of course, it's gonna earn them way more money in the long term. Also, you need to look at it the way that other people like are looking at it, which is where you can do a one-time purchase of $50, which, or 60, you know, these days might be even 70, 80. This is a really big purchase to have everything all at once. But if you dissect it over time to like $5 purchases, this is way easier to convince someone they're not wasting the same amount when in real life they're wasting more because it's $5, $5, $5, $5. That's why like annual subscription are a really great thing. I mean, for companies, not for players, obviously, instead of one-time purchases, right? Because you have people constantly paying you a small sum of money, but over time you're gonna extract way more value out of them. So yeah, it's just a genius marketing strategy and just, you know, wise financial choice. That being said, he didn't say that, but I want to kind of mention that about the previous segment. The thing that's really good about free-to-play games is that a lot of people that are currently unable to pay, most of them being children, teenagers, or just people without credit card in general, you give them access to play your game, and whenever they get a credit card available or some way to pay, maybe a gift card or something, they will have purchases in your game because they already hooked on your game. So that is something that he did not mention. Maybe he'll mention it later on, but that is crucial part of free-to-play gaming. And I know because I've been a gamer my entire life, and obviously I did not have a credit card. Nobody was willing to like pay for me give me online purchases and stuff like that, because my parents are super strict not to ever put your credit card online. It was in the, you know, good old days, so nowadays everyone pays online. Nobody really cares anymore. But yeah, back in the day, like, nobody really wanted to put his credit card online, fear of it being stolen and such. But yeah, I was a free-to-play gamer, and when I grew up, I ended up paying for a lot of the game that, you know, I used to pay for free, right? So that is really a crucial part of this.
This is what happens when you have companies that can manipulate you so well, you don't even notice when it's happening. And the worst part, they're teaching others their tricks.
Some of you will probably be slightly shocked by all the tricks I have listed here.
Bruh.
But I'll leave the morality of it out of the talk.
You know it's gonna be...
You know what? At least he's straight up saying it. I'll gotta give him credit. Hey, he's saying it. He's saying it. I mean, okay, I guess that's something.
A gnarly presentation when the guy starts with, let's not think about the morality of this. And he doesn't. This presentation on how to monetize free-to-play games really outlines everything. In-depth industry secrets on how to use psychology to trick people to spend money.
Every company is hiring psychologists. Every company hires them to analyze the player base, and they know what to do. I know because I know a lot of people that work in mobile gaming industry, and this is the scummiest industry you can ever imagine. And yeah, all they do is just talk to psychologists and maximizing their absolute development just to, you know, make sure they extract the most amount of money from you and make you spend the most amount of money.
The whole time watching this, all I could think of was the old adage of the frog in the pot.
Oh man, don't put him there.
In water, it'll jump out. But put the frog in cool water and gradually heat it up, the frog will boil to death. Or as the presenter puts it, you hook the gamer first with something irresistible, then you create a habit with an easy and rewarding gameplay loop that
exactly
pounce when the game becomes a hobby, because players will do anything to win or progress. It's crazy to outright hear it, but it gets even better.
Top grossing games have in-game economies worth tens of thousands.
Meaning the more players can spend on a game, the more you'll make.
Wait, what was that?
Meaning the more players can...
Diablo Immortal player spends 100k to max his character. Dude, well, I mean, to be fair, at this point, I don't think he even cares about money. Like, there's so many whales you can snag. I mean, it's like pocket change for them, but still, this is crazy.
Spend on a game, the more you'll make.
Make stuff immediately useful.
You could have donated this amount to, like, charity and actually make the world a better place, but you decide to max a digital character and give Blizzard cash. That is insane.
Immediate gratification.
Bobby, thank you, though.
So you don't want them thinking about the purchase.
People are much more attached to the stuff they have than an equal amount of things that they can gain.
We are more likely to pay if you threaten to take something away.
So we are herd animals. We tend to do what all of the others do. Absolutely do not want to tell them that the majority of people in your game never spend money. That's poison. Never tell them that.
And my favorite of all.
Listen, I mean, you can hate him, but he's absolutely right. Everything he says has been proven psychologically and socially. So, yeah, I mean, it is what it is. This guy is clearly knows what he's talking about, but it's so annoying to hear regardless. Such a scummy practice, but it is what it is, man.
Make sure
Unfortunate.
that your games aren't too skill-based.
The craziest part about all of this is that what he's talking...
So, anyone think of Marvel Rivals when he said that?
talking about isn't even the worst of it. It's terrible that game studios have taken these strategies and turned most free-to-play games into pay-to-win. But somehow, pay-to-win has also infected full-priced games too. You're not only having to pay to play, but they want you to keep paying. Sound familiar? We seem to have come full circle. We are somehow back in the arcade days.
We've evolved.
Where I'm more likely to just watch someone else play because it's too expensive for me to keep up. And I know that you know who really took this pay-to-win model to a new level. The two-time worst company,
Say it.
EA. EA saw all these free-to-play games using pay-to-win strategies and thought, we could do better. At first glance, it didn't seem like a big deal. Like the cosmetics in Maple Story, who cares if someone wants to pay for a purely visual change? But over the years,
there it is!
Went from simple game additions to full-on progression systems. It was finally perfect in the eyes of EA. They were following the advice of a very moral presenter when he says,
The reason I highlighted convenience up there or progress is that most of your sales will be here. Customization, hats and stuff, they're nice, but you'll have a single-digit percentage of your income coming from that.
You make the real money monetizing progression systems, not cosmetics. So EA shipped this new model with the brand new game, Star Wars Battlefront 2. 12 years after I purchased the first Battlefront game at a swap meet, I found myself reading article after article about Battlefront 2. Everyone's conclusion, the game was pay to win. People lost their
And Grigio,
minds.
he's a real one.
Planets! Controversies just won't
Young
stop
Ye.
coming.
I would recommend not buying this game just because of the anti-consumer
Oh,
practices.
it's Charlie.
EA tried to save face, but the backlash was immense. So EA
Yeah, so you see, this is what happens when gamers kind of wake up, and I think gamers have woken up in recent times. I think there's, how do I say it? There's more players now understanding what the hell is going on, and they understand that, you know, the gaming companies has been putting a veil over them. And now they're kind of like waking up and start going against these scummy practices. And that's why we see the rise of indie games and the fall of large AAA companies. I think players are genuinely waking up.
EA back down. Loot box were grabbing the attention of governments. Was pay to win leaving AAA games?
Exactly.
Were we finally free?
Yep. Also, based Europe, I actually think that it's the government, you know, the government needs to actually get involved. I don't think big companies should be allowed to do what they do. I think that this is a scummy practices, making people addicted on purpose and just keep paying you money. I don't think the excuse of, oh, it's their free will to do so, they don't have to do it, is viable. I think the government should interfere with that. That is horrible. No. It's psychological manipulation. Like, that's a crime, in my opinion.
Although we won against EA and loot boxes are disappearing, all sorts of games continue to hide pay-to-win mechanics in their games. So pay-to-win isn't going anywhere.
I don't think Genshin hides it. I think it's just like way out there in the open, and kind of nobody cares.
Unless governments step...
I mean, most of these games now, as you see, they're not trying to appeal to broader audience. They're just trying to go for a certain niche of players that are willing to pay their entire life savings just to play that certain game. So that is what kind of big gaming companies are pivoting to right now.
Step in, or studios find a more lucrative solution. Which brings me to my final piece. We need an ethical and lucrative solution to get rid of pay to win. Just like before with the introduction of the free-to-play model, game studios are stuck, and they do not know how to overcome it. With inflation rising and costs soaring, studios need to make more money on their games now more than ever before. But they know if they raise the price of their games, they'll cut off large chunks of their player base, which is why it took so long to see games rise above $60. But these game companies should also know, if they keep going down this road of pay to win, they'll destroy their brand and future sales.
Exactly.
Short-term thinking is hindering their potential. The hybrid model trend and the excess of manipulative monetization strategies can't last forever. Gamers are starting to wise up. So
Exactly, he
these
said
companies
it.
are in a pickle. They need to think long-term, but don't know how. This is where true innovators shine. When you're in that pickle, you are forced to find creative solutions to unique problems. Those that don't will die or be bought by those that do. This is why
Yep.
League of Legends was so successful and why I'm so bullish on indie studios. When you're small, you have to
said it.
innovate to succeed. And whoever creates a great game that doesn't limit a game's value like pay to win, but adds value in a unique way will become like Doom in the 90s or League of Legends in the 2000s. A beloved game that changes the entire industry.
Perfect.
As part of our tradition, we like to feature indie games at the end of our videos. And
Nice.
this time, our community chose the timeless free-to-play gem, Cave Story. Despite being released 19 years ago, Cave
Wow.
Story remains a pinnacle example of indie game development and has forever altered the perception of
Actually
where
looks good.
exceptional games can originate from. We couldn't think of a more fitting choice to feature. You can play the game for free on PC or pick up a copy of the game on the Switch. I highly suggest it. And if you want to get your game or one of your favorite indie games highlighted in our next video, come join our Discord and let us know what game we should feature next.
Wow, great video. Great video. It's so funny how he said everything that I have said like towards the end there. Really great. Really amazing video. And yeah, he's absolutely right. In my opinion, what I said is still true. I think the government should kind of interfere like Europe is doing. I think loot boxes are scummy mechanics. They're supposed to get like kids hooked on them, and that is just scummy practice. And yeah, it shouldn't be allowed. Shouldn't be allowed straight up. But yeah, he said it all. He said it all. Indie games are rising. Players are getting smarter each day. So this practice will eventually fall out of favor. Right now, it's still kind of working because we're seeing the remnants of COVID. But at the end of the day, this is not good for a company long term. And we clearly see it. So many companies have been disbanded, just ruined, or just straight up in the gutters. So yeah. Amazing video overall. Gonna leave a link in the description for you guys to watch it for yourself and give it a like. Of course, make sure to let me know what you think in the comments below. But that's all for now. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.